Also joined by our ambassador to the UAE, Ambassador Sanjay Sudhir, and also joining us on the dais is Joint Secretary in charge of Gulf countries in the Ministry of External Affairs, Shri Asim Mahajan. With that, I invite Foreign Secretary to make his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, and Ambassador Sanjay Sudhir, Asim, Randir, friends from the media, thank you so much for coming out this morning for this briefing with regard to Prime Minister's ongoing visit to the UAE. You have yourself closely followed the developments and the events yesterday. We would like to just update you on some of the significant and substantive elements of the discussions between the two leaders yesterday. As you all know, Prime Minister arrived in Abu Dhabi yesterday in the afternoon, what is his 7th visit to this country. On his arrival, in a rare gesture, he was received by the President of the UAE, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and also accorded a ceremonial welcome at the airport. Thereafter, the leaders held detailed delegation level and one-to-one talks, which covered the entire gamut of bilateral engagement between India and the UAE, as also the significant developments regionally as also globally. They also witnessed a transaction made using the Jeevan card, and Prime Minister congratulated the President with regard to the launch of UAE's domestic Jeevan card, which is another significant step in financial sector cooperation between India and the UAE, because the Jeevan card has a considerable interface with the RuPay card of Government of India. There were 10 MOUs, agreements that were signed. I would just take this opportunity to highlight to you some of the key aspects of each of these agreements, because it is our assessment that these agreements are quite significant and important in taking forward the relationship between India and UAE across the whole range of areas. The first one that was signed was MOU on cooperation in the field of electricity connection and trade. The objective of this particular MOU is to focus on strengthening our partnership in two crucial domains: one relating to energy security and two relating to energy trade. Obviously, clean energy trade is an important segment of this MOU. This would focus naturally on green hydrogen and also on energy storage. Naturally, the collaboration that deals with investment, policy research, R&D, innovation across this entire sector of clean and green energy would also form an important segment of partnership under this MOU. The second one, which I would like to highlight, is the agreement on intergovernmental framework concerning cooperation on the India-Middle East Economic Corridor. Now, you are all aware that the IMEC, India-Middle East Economic Corridor, was launched during the G20 summit meeting in New Delhi, and this agreement builds collaboration and also looks at specific things that the parties would do to promote cooperation in this space. The main areas under this particular agreement which are covered are: one, relating to cooperation on logistics platforms, which is a crucial element of furthering the objectives of this particular corridor. Two, provision of supply chain services. Now, supply chain services not just limited to one or two things, but to cover all types of general cargo, bulk containers and liquid bulk. Now, the whole one of the aims in this is to see how quickly the IMAC, which was launched, gets operated and benefits the core objective of a stronger, deeper, more extensive regional connectivity between the parties involved. The third is the MOU between the Ministry of Investment of the UAE and the MeitY, that is the Ministry of Electronics and Technology, on cooperation on digital infrastructure projects. Now, this is a framework agreement that focuses on investment cooperation in the field of digital infrastructures. Naturally, as a corollary of that, the focus is on developing capabilities, sharing technical knowledge, advice, skills, and expertise under this particular framework. Government agencies, as also the regulatory authorities, will also look to forge partnership under this particular digital infrastructure MOU. This would focus on some of the key areas of digital space that includes high power computing, digital innovation, and the platforms relating to management of data. The fourth one was the bilateral investment treaty, a very important and a significant agreement between India and UAE that will set the basis for a stronger and more extensive and wide-ranging investment partnership, because it focuses not just on protecting the existing investments, it also advances the objective of promoting further capital flows between the two economies. Then there's the MOU on development of National Maritime Heritage Complex. This is a National Maritime Heritage Complex at Lothal, Gujarat, and the two sides will work closely, and the relevant departments will work closely to develop this project in a comprehensive fashion. Then there is agreement. There is a cooperation protocol actually between the National Library and Archives of the UAE and the National Archives of India. The objective is to promote cooperation in archives management through exchange of expertise, historical information, research and studies, etc. Then there was an agreement between Gujarat Maritime Board and Abu Dhabi Ports Company, which would seek to build partnership with regard to port and maritime sectors between the two signing entities, and would include port infrastructure development, development of sustainable ports, technology engagement wherever applicable, maritime education and training, tourism collaboration, and development of I would say a complete system in which port cities could shape and develop and be the basis of further economic development and partnership between the two countries. Then there was agreement on the interlinking of the instant payment platforms, UPI of India and ANI of the UAE. I think it is self-explanatory what it seeks to achieve, which is closer integration and cooperation between the financial platforms of the two economies. Agreement also on the interlinking domestic credit cards, that is RuPay of India and Jeevan of UAE. I've already referred to it briefly in my opening remarks. There was also an MOU between the RITES, and this is the last one, between RITES and the Abu Dhabi Ports Authority with regard to development of multimodal logistics parks, which would economic free trade zones, rail connectivity projects, and the related infrastructure services. These were some of the key agreements which were finalized, signed, and exchanged yesterday. important enough to be flagged for your information. Now, these agreements come on the foundation and the growing layers of very strong trade and investment partnership between the two countries. Our bilateral trade already stands close to $85 billion, and UAE is the fourth largest investor in the Indian economy. As part of his program, the Honorable Prime Minister also met with the first batch of students of the IIT Delhi Abu Dhabi campus. The campus and the institute has started its first academic program this January, and is a landmark step in collaboration in the field of education, and the facilities of this institute would be available for the students globally. Of course, it's also signifies the importance and significance of the expansion of IITs of India. In the evening, as you all heard, the Prime Minister addressed the Indian community at Ehlan Modi event hosted at the Zayed Sports City Arena. More than 40,000 people attended this event, and in his address, as you would have heard, Prime Minister thanked the UAE President for his commitment to bilateral ties, for his support to the Indian community, and of course for the granting of land for building the BAPS temple, whose inauguration we will be witnessing later this afternoon. In terms of programs for the rest of the day, Prime Minister will be addressing the World Government Summit in Dubai as guest of honor, and ahead of that he would also be holding bilateral discussions with His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President, Prime Minister and Defence Minister and the ruler of Dubai. The two leaders are also expected to virtually inaugurate the Bharat Mart project. Prime Minister may also have some sideline meeting at the World Government Summit, of which we will keep you briefed. Prime Minister will also be in the afternoon return to Dubai for the inauguration of the BAPS temple, as I mentioned to you, whereafter he departs for its next destination. With regard to the programs later this afternoon, we would keep you briefed as the proceedings unfold. I would stop here, and if there are questions, we'll happily take them. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we start with Siddhant and then Arushi?
Hi sir, Siddhant from Beyond. Sir, my question to you is, India-UAE relationship has been traditionally focused on energy. The Prime Minister was addressing the IIT, the first batch. So are we looking at diversification of the relationship into other fields, especially when it comes to education? And secondly, my second question is on the framework agreement which has been signed on India, Middle East and Europe corridor. What kind of conversations took place between the two leaders on this specific corridor?
Arushi?
So this is Ayushi Agrawal from ANI. Sir, how much was the ongoing conflict, Israel-Palestine conflict, discussed between the two leaders, and also its impact on the I2U2? Second, PM Modi is in his address yesterday mentioned about that UPI services will begin in UAE soon. So if you can tell us more about that, when can we expect that to happen?
Meghna?
Sir, was the situation, Sir Meghna from DD News, so was the situation in the Red Sea discussed in the meeting between both the leaders? I have another question as well regarding the MOU which was signed when President Nayan was in Gujarat for the Vibrant Gujarat Global Summit, and MOU was signed in terms of food park projects. Was there any discussion on that or any areas that have been earmarked for it?
Please.
सर मैं ब्रिजमोहन सिंह रघुवंशी हूं। मैं साधना समूह और टीवी एशिया के बिहाफ पे ये प्रश्न पूछना चाह रहा हूं। जैसा कि कल हम लोग ने देखा सर, ना कि सिर्फ भारतीय समुदाय के लोग थे, यहाँ पे यूएई के भी तमाम ऐसे जो खास तौर से जो यहाँ के जो सिटीजन्स थे वो भी कल मोदी जी को सुन रहे थे। और एक बड़ी एक घटनाक्रम हुआ जो कि पॉजिटिव रहा। 2 दिन पूर्व कतर में लगभग जो 7 नेवी के जो अफसर थे जिनको मौत की सजा सुनाई गई थी, उनको आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के और आप बायलैटरल रिलेशंस की जो आप बात कर रहे हैं उसके तहत उनको छोड़ दिया गया। तो ये माना जाए कि सर आने वाले समय पे भारत के रिश्ते ना कि सिर्फ यहाँ इस्लामिक देशों के अलावा अन्य देशों में भी इसी तरह से होंगी कि कोई कभी ऐसी घटना अगर कभी होती है जिसमें हमारे भारतीय नागरिकों की कोई स्थिति खराब हो सकती है, तो उसमें आप लोग के सहयोग से विदेश मंत्रालय की तरफ से इस तरह के प्रयास आगे भी किए जाएंगे?
Thank you very much. Siddhant, some of the questions in the room are kind of interlinked with each other, so may sort of go to them interchangeably. Siddhant, to your question with regard to whether there is the signing and the meeting of the Prime Minister with the IIT students, does that signify diversification of our bilateral cooperation? I think if you look at the trajectory, if you look at the spread, if you look at the intensity of India-UAE cooperation in the last 10 years, and I would make a point of correction here when you said that India-UAE partnership is focused on energy. I think if you look at the specifics of it, if you look at the evidence of it, if you look at what the two countries and the two leaders have particularly done in the partnership, you will find that there is this is perhaps one of the most comprehensive partnership that India has with any of the countries. You can take any segment of economic endeavor and you will find there is an ongoing cooperation between India and UAE in that field. So I am not very sure if it would be correct to confine it to begin with itself in the energy sector. I think to begin with itself it has a very wide base. Yes, the launch of the IIT Abu Dhabi, IIT Delhi Abu Dhabi campus does signify an entry into a very important area of education per se, and also what education does to people connectivity, what it also does to the entire sector of cooperation, which has a tangent link to the innovation sector. I just listed out to you 10 agreements that clearly tell you that the continuing leadership-driven impetus to this partnership has expanded it to pretty much all areas of economic activity that the states engage in, that our societies engage in. We already started with a very strong base, but I think everybody would recognize that that base has not only widened, it has deepened, and also there are further layers of stronger and deeper cooperation in many areas in this field. Aishi, to your question on the when would the UPI services be launched, and on the Israel-Palestine discussion, also links to Megha's question on whether the situation in the Red Sea was discussed. As I mentioned to you in my opening remarks, the developments in our region, in this region, they have been a very important element of discussions between the two leaders, not just yesterday when they met, but even in their previous meetings. This is a region which is an important a source of wider energy security all across the world, including for India. There are important stakes involved whenever there is any disturbance takes place. So yes, the discussions they did feature the Israel-Palestine, and the situation in the Red Sea did focus in the discussions between the two leaders. As regards its impact on the I2U2, as we mentioned in our pre-departure briefing yesterday, that whether it is I2U2 projects, and this of course connects me to Megha's point on the food parks really. So whether it is I2U2 projects or it is the IMAC, and the signing of the agreement which I mentioned on IMAC is a clear testimony and evidence that while the the ongoing disturbance in the region with regard to conflict in Gaza and the situation in Red Sea indeed is a matter of concern, and both countries and the leaders continue to monitor, supervise and exchange notes on them. But it is equally important to ensure that the economic cooperation which can be pursued, taken forward, continues to stay course and maintain its momentum. And the food park project, which predates the I2U2 actually, is an important part of that continuity of our efforts to ensure that the momentum of cooperation in these areas stays course and remains built. देखिए, जो आपका प्रश्न था भारतीय समुदाय को लेके, जो भारतीय नागरिक विदेशों में दुविधा या समस्या में जब पड़ते हैं, देखिए, आप यदि पिछले 10 वर्ष में माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के कार्यकाल में एक एक घटनाक्रम को यदि आप विस्तार में उसका विश्लेषण करेंगे तो आप पाएंगे कि जब जब भारतीय समुदाय के लोग विदेश में किसी भी समस्या में पड़े हैं, तब तब माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने, उनके नेतृत्व ने, उनके व्यक्तिगत इनिशिएटिव्स के कारण, चाहे वो कोविड कालखंड की बात हो, चाहे वो पीछे सूडान में हुआ उसकी बात हो, जितने मिशंस जो हमारे चले हैं, जिनके अंतर्गत लाखों करोड़ों की संख्या में यदि आवश्यकता पड़ी है तो भारतीयों को वापस लेके आया गया है जब भी कहीं समस्या है। ये आपको ये माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के जो भारतीय समुदाय की समस्याओं को लेके जो एक संवेदनशीलता है, उसका एक प्रत्यक्ष प्रमाण है आपके सामने। तो ये कहना कि आगे भी, ये तो स्पष्ट है, आगे भी क्या कि पिछले 10 साल के कार्यकाल में देखें तो भारतीय नागरिक कहीं भी हों, बाहर हों, ये केवल विदेश मंत्रालय का प्रश्न नहीं है, ये होल ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट, भारत सरकार का ये प्रश्न है, जो प्रधानमंत्री के नेतृत्व में सशक्त रूप से हर प्रयास करती है कि कभी भी भारतीय समुदाय का कोई भी व्यक्ति किसी भी शक्ल में हो, उसकी जो भी यथोचित सहायता, यथासंभव जो भी सहायता संभव हो, वो हम पूरी तरह से करेंगे। ये प्रधानमंत्री जी के हमेशा निर्देश रहे हैं, उनका नेतृत्व रहा है। उन्होंने स्वयं से आगे बढ़ के अपने नेतृत्व से दूसरे देशों के नेतृत्व से बात करके ये सुनिश्चित किया है कि भारतीय नागरिक जहां भी कहीं हो, जब भी कभी समस्या में हो, वो हर प्रकार से सुरक्षित रहें और उनकी भारत वापसी जहां पे आवश्यकता हो वो पूरी तरह से हो। धन्यवाद।
Siddhant and then Vishal.
Hello, Foreign Secretary. I'm Siddhant from CNN News 18. Foreign Secretary, last time around in the month of May, if I'm not mistaken, there was an announcement made that MR Group will invest 500 crore in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Perhaps the plan was to build a mega mall in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. That was a very ambitious project. Would like to know that was it discussed or perhaps any agreements related to that signed during yesterday's meeting? And also, Foreign Secretary, if you could explain a bit about intergovernmental agreement that was mentioned, exchange between the two sides, or related to IMAC, I'm talking about, and how will it take this IMAC project forward, if you can explain, because initially it was launched during G20. Now the intergovernmental agreement happened yesterday. So if you can explain it or perhaps break down for us. Thank you.
Vishal.
सर, मैं विशाल पांडे हूं जी न्यूज से। मेरा सवाल है, क्या आज मंदिर के उद्घाटन में यूएई सरकार के भी कोई प्रतिनिधि मौजूद रहेंगे? और इसके साथ ही एक सवाल ये भी है कि कतर का दौरा प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी का कितना महत्वपूर्ण रहने वाला है, खासतौर पर जब 8 भारतीयों की रिहाई हुई है?
With regard to MR project, for that matter, any other investment cooperation discussion which might be going on between the relevant entities involved, I think it is best to talk about those things once they are rectified. It would not be correct to really prejudge the discussions which are going forward. I would simply like to state that there are several private sector investment projects that remain under discussion between the private sector entities of the two sides, and our intention is to focus and foster a greater investment cooperation. And naturally, investment cooperation involves capital flows from the private sector and including from the government where necessary between the two economies. The bilateral investment treaty that I spoke about earlier on would essentially serve a very strong, I would say, legal foundations to ensure that the investors in each other's economy can take stronger steps, bigger steps for investment partnership. With regard to IMAC, I mentioned to you some of the important elements what this particular agreement would do. I think I would take you back a bit when the IMAC was launched in Delhi, and you would recall that the central thrust of this one of the central thrusts of this particular agreement was on the regional connectivity, to strengthen regional connectivity between the countries involved in this India-Middle East economic corridor. As I mentioned to you, logistics platforms. Now, logistics platform is a very extensive vertical in itself. So different elements of logistics platform. Supply chain services, I mentioned about that. Now, when you go for supply chain services, there is already an extensive interlinking of various supply chain services globally. India, UAE are part of that. Now, this would include, as I mentioned, these are specific technical things, but since you asked, I'll just mention, these would include general cargo, bulk containers, liquid bulk, but the whole idea is that this economic corridor moves forward, strengthens regional connectivity, expands economic partnership, opens up new areas of opportunity for trade ties to grow, naturally. It also opens up new opportunities for certain trade services to grow. So when you talk of logistics, naturally logistics services, just besides the logistics infrastructure, would be an important element of it. All in all, a very important agreement for us to proceed on the launch, which was done at the G20 summit last year. विशाल, कतर का यात्रा का जहाँ तक प्रश्न है, वो यात्रा के प्रारंभ से पहले और यात्रा के दौरान जो भी दोनों देशों के नेतृत्व के बीच में बात होगी, हम उसको यथोचित समय पे आपके सामने, आपके समक्ष उनको प्रस्तुत करेंगे। लेकिन ये यहाँ कहना आवश्यक है कि जैसे कि मैंने प्रस्थान से पहले जो प्रेसर हुआ था कल, उसमें भी कहा था कि भारत कतर संबंध एक व्यापक संबंध है, उनका स्वरूप व्यापक है, उनके स्पेसिफिक्स व्यापक हैं। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने 2016 में कतर की यात्रा की थी। उसके बाद राजनीतिक स्तर पे हमारे कई नेतागणों की भी यात्रा कतर में हुई है, चाहे वो ऊर्जा से संबंधित प्रश्न हो, चाहे वो व्यापार से संबंधित प्रश्न हो, चाहे वो निवेश से संबंधित प्रश्न हो, भारतीय डायस्पोरा से संबंधित प्रश्न हो, क्षेत्रीय जो भी स्थिति है उसको लेके आपस में दोनों देशों के बीच में क्या सहयोग हो, क्या सहकार्य हो, उसके प्रश्न हो। ये सभी प्रश्न जो भारत कतार सहयोग के मुख्य अभिन्न अंग हैं, ये स्पष्ट रूप से दर्शाते हैं कि भारत कतर संबंध ऑलरेडी काफ़ी सशक्त हैं, और अब प्रधानमंत्री की जो यात्रा जो आज शाम से वहाँ शुरू होगी, वो इन हमारे संबंधों के आयाम को एक नई ऊंचाई पे लेके जाएगी। लेकिन जैसे कि मैंने कहा, उसकी जानकारी हम आपको यथोचित समय पे वार्ता के बाद स्पष्ट करेंगे। मगर प्रधानमंत्री जी खाड़ी के हर देश के साथ भारत संबंध बढ़ाने में के व्यक्तिगत नेतृत्व लेकर हम उसको आगे चल रहे हैं। यही ही हमारी संबंधों की रूपरेखा की जो जनरल निर्धारित दिशा है। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your presence. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. With that, we come to the end of this press engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much.